Hello Flosstube, this is AM Dreamingstitcher. It is the third Sunday of the month, so I have come to YouTube once more to bring you my monthly update on what I've been doing in the world of cross-stitching. When last I spoke to you, I was trying to finish up my small full coverage piece from Or&Co Originals called White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, and I had planned for the months of June and July to move on with another old work in progress called Floral Splendor from Artiste. I did work on both of those projects. Not a whole lot got done on the second one. I finished the White Rabbit and I'll be showing you that. But unlike the past few months where I had been trying to stitch for 3 hours a day, there's been many and many a day that I haven't stitched at all, especially in June. And yet, here I am. I think the issue, well, there's different things, which I don't need to go into all of them. Community band has started again, so of course I've been, back to my instrument and things like that. The embroidery that I started was a little bit of a distraction, but I have two pieces I've been working on in embroidery that I haven't finished either. Basically, I think it's just my depression is, I don't know that it was ever gone, so I don't want to say it's back, but without any formal diagnosis of this, I think I probably have anhedonia, where you're not taking pleasure in anything, and so stitching or anything else just hasn't been doing anything for me for quite a while. But I read some advice on it this morning, and they said do things you used to take pleasure in, whether you're taking pleasure in them or not, and eventually you'll start to enjoy things again. So I'm here to see you. That was a long way of saying I'm not necessarily taking any pleasure in posting a video today, but I'm due for one, and I used to enjoy them. And if the advice is true and I keep doing things I used to enjoy, then maybe things will pick up again. So thank you for tuning in with what I have to share today. I did do a little bit of cross-stitch related shopping that I'll be showing you, and I have some comments and news on a few Flosstubers out there, but very little actual stitching to show you. So where to begin? I think I'll start with Flosstubers. And if you're not interested, fast forward a little bit till you start seeing me holding things up. I jotted down some names. One of them is related to purchases I made, and the others are just folks whose videos I enjoy or have enjoyed in the past and who were absent from Flosstube for a while. I've noticed that with a lot of my favorite stitchers that they just haven't been around. And some of these recently posted videos again, and so I wanted to comment on them and tell you all to, please go out and watch them. The one who's been missing in action that I actually mentioned in a previous video was the Flosstuber who went by the name originally of Mrs. Baker Girl, and then she changed that to Granny Baker and Stitches. And she's over in the UK, and I was very worried about her because she just sort of disappeared during the period that I wasn't posting videos, and I worried about her health. And then I discovered, serendipitously, that she is back on YouTube using an old channel under her actual name, Jayne Pendle. I'm telling you that so you can go check her out. Jayne, Jayne Pendle, Pendle. She was always very faithful about commenting on new Flosstubers videos and being out there for the community. And I can say that her absence was related to the pandemic, but not to anyone actually getting ill. So if you want to know her story, go check out her videos. She posted just a few, about 4 new ones, I think, over the last 6 months maybe. But please take a look for her. I don't see her turning up when I search Flosstube, but if you look under her name, you can find her. I found her by searching cross stitch on a day that she actually posted. Okay, another one who was absent for a while, but it was really pretty close to her usual updates because she posts every few months, was Patricia K, and I loved to see her progress on her most recent piece. but she may not be posting for a while, she said, because of ongoing family issues. So if you want to watch her old videos and give her a little support that way, please do. Artful Stitchery was missing for a while, and I love her work as well. It's beautiful and she gets so much done, and she finally posted again. It's been a few weeks now, but I was so happy to see hers. One that I hadn't seen lately, but I might have just missed her because, again, with not taking pleasure in anything, I haven't exactly been watching Flosstube very faithfully either. But she used to post as Luby's Lot, and just this week she put up a video. She's changed her channel just to her name, Lisa Bergin. So I have no problem with that, but I love her stitching too. So I was happy to see she put something else up. And one who hasn't posted in ages and ages, and I'm sorry I don't remember her real name, I tend to be very bad about that, is collbn, Collbn, and I know she has a name, but I don't know when she'll post again. But I'm mentioning her because I bought something that makes me think of a piece she was working on. And then the most surprising one that kind of resurfaced, and I was pleased to see, and hasn't actually done a stitching update yet, but she did a little bit of a live update this week, was Sunroom Stitcher, who she'll tell you the whole story of how she sort of got banned from YouTube and has found her way back again. And I kind of agree with her that it doesn't sound like there was any good grounds for why she couldn't access her channel and whatever. But I was very glad to see her back. So if you used to be a faithful watcher of Sunroom Stitcher, go looking. She had something new. Okay, I'm sure there are many other Flosstubers I could comment on, some that I'm still hoping to see show back up that haven't, but that's okay. All right, next, because I keep saying that I mentioned collbn due to shopping, and this is going to be a very disorganized video. I'm sorry, it is what it is. I did do a small amount of cross-stitch shopping. We won't talk about any other shopping, but a small amount of cross-stitch shopping. I did an order with 123 Stitch, primarily to get the colors of floss to go with a kit I showed you last month that was from Janlin called Oriental Sampler, and I bought it off eBay. It was secondhand, and an entire floss card was missing even though they thought the kit was complete. So I had to buy all the colors. I think there's about a dozen of them that were supposed to be in the kit and weren't. And you know things never go alone in the cart, so I got some embroidery needles. I got chenille needles to see if those work with embroidery. That's what these are. I got some gold-eye needles because somewhere I read that they're easier to thread. I'm just trying to get things to help me out with my new interest in embroidery. Whether they will or won't, I don't know. I've already opened some needles and worked with them, but these are the ones I haven't. I got one chart which started its life as a needlepoint kit, but now that Cooler Design Studios is releasing so many of their old designs as charts, they are sort of interchangeable. You can do them as needlepoint or cross stitch. It doesn't really matter because they're both charted designs. And this one, and he's still, you can get him secondhand as a kit, is Mr. Frog Goes A-Courting. My father used to sing little ditties now and then. He did not have, a fancy special operatic voice or anything, but he could certainly carry a tune. He had a very pleasant voice, and he would sing these little snippets of song that, from his youth in the 40s and things like that. But one of the things he occasionally sang a little bit of was Froggy Goes A-Courtin', and I love to hear him sing that. So I have Mr. Frog Goes A-Courting because it's kind of a charming design. In fact, I think I have Mr. Frog Goes A-Courting. Looking at this, hang on a moment. He does not have the dapper hat and so on that this has, but I've long ago in a video told you how I like to go to art shows and buy some things that really have nothing to do with cross stitch. Does this little frog in his fine outfit, who I got from these folks long ago, not make you think of this? I just thought of that while holding it up and showing it to you. Anyway, that's the only chart I got. The things I got that made me think of other floss tubers were at the time I was trying to fill my cart, cover the shipping for that floss. I noticed, and I hadn't noticed this before at 123 Stitch, but I guess they've been doing it for years, that they had some grab bags of fabric, and they're little pieces. I don't usually do a lot of very small pieces, so I'm not sure that I would use these much, but I thought of them as an opportunity, kind of a sampler, to see what some of the fabrics are. They don't identify the fabrics, but I could try out some of the different counts, for example. So I got one bag of their 14 to 18 count Aida, and this came in some very nice colors that I'm interested to kind of see. So from hot pink to kind of a silver gray, a beige, a light blue, a whitish color. Actually, I think that might have sparkles. I think it's opalescent. Kind of a turquoisey blue. My light's not great here. Navy. Kind of a gray-green blue. I don't know what that is. But it was a nice variety. And I got some even weave. I have never, I have to confess it, actually stitched on even weaves before, unless you count Aida and linen as part of that class of fabrics called even weave fabrics. But I mean things like, although I have some Monaco in my stash, I haven't used it yet. When you all talk about Lugana and Jobelin and Monacos and all those things, I've never used any of those. So I got their even weave grab bag. And it has kind of a black, one of these pre-gridded ones. I don't usually use gridding, but just a variety of rather neutral colors for the most part. Kind of a checkerboard. One of those ones that's sort of modeled on one side because it's been printed like a hand dyed, but isn't actually dyed. Sparkly ones. I'm sorry, you guys probably know a ton more about even weaves than I do and could tell me what it is I'm looking at, but I want to come to the linen bag. The linen bag is where I got a piece that makes me think of other stitchers. I like the Aidas. I can imagine buying fabrics those color and using them for projects when it's appropriate. The even weaves will be interesting to try stitching on to see what I think of even weaves. I don't mind stitching on linen, but there is not much in this linen bag that I would stitch on. And there's one that I'm going to have to try hard to think of something to stitch that is not what the fabric makes me think of, which I'll talk about when I get there. So here's kind of a hand-dyed brown, different colors. I know my lighting's terrible, I'm sorry. Another hand-dyed kind of a linen. Very plain, kind of raw linen. I was hoping, there'd be smaller counts than I've been using so that I can get used to them. Here's one of those really stiff perman type linens. I have some of that. Not in this blue. Another neutral. Another checkerboard. And then the one that I'm going to struggle to put anything on, the one that makes me think of collbn. Why do I keep bringing her up? Well, one of the things she's been stitching for a while is her homage to Dark Shadows and Barnabas Collins. And she has, on a nice red fabric, a silhouetted, basically, design of Barnabas Collins and his house. And she's been plugging away at it. Might be done by now, considering how long it's been since she posted a video. But I think it would have gone really well on this fabric. I also think of a floss tuber I saw once who was so gushing with enthusiasm over a design she was going to do of Christian Bale playing whatever the serial killer's name is in the movie where he was a serial killer. What was that called? Was it American Gothic? I don't know. I don't remember what it was called. American Psycho? Maybe it was American Psycho. I don't know. But anyway, what she was going to stitch was his face with blood spatters everywhere. It was not something I would ever stitch, but I always think of it when I think of what different tastes we cross-stitchers have and how we can love something that someone else just looks askant at. And I think this fabric would have worked for that too. So I have this linen that makes me think of serial killers and vampires and murder scenes. It looks kind of orange in the slide, I think, but it's actually quite red. Uh, yeah, I've decided I have to come up with maybe some beautiful flower that complements this shade of red. I don't know. There's no way I would stitch on it what it makes me think of. Um, yeah, I bet some of you have this fabric. I bet you love this fabric. It just makes me laugh because I did not expect to get that, and it is definitely not up my alley. But I will find something I can do with it because I really want to figure out the stitch counts on all of these and find out what I'm going to be comfortable with. So those were my purchases. And considering me, that's not a whole lot, but it's not because I haven't been spending my money on other things. I'm trying to get a handle on that. I think that also has to do, and you don't really need all the stories of my mental problems, but I think that also has to do with depression because I think, you buy things to try to improve your mood sometimes, but it's not that shopping improves my mood. It's when you have anhedonia, which, like I said, I don't have a formal diagnosis of that, so maybe that's not what I have. I hope not, because I think those who really suffer it must be extremely serious. But I don't take pleasure in things as I should or as I used to, and I don't anticipate things much. But when you shop, you can kind of anticipate, oh, I'll get this thing that will make me so happy. And another thing I read lately was that if you're doing things to try to make you happy, you're not doing the right thing. That's not the way happiness works. So yeah, I've been buying things to think, well, when I have this thing and do this thing, I'll be happy stitching this, or I'll be happy reading this, or I'll be happy playing this, or I'll be happy whatever. And then I get it, and because I'm taking no pleasure in anything, I'm mostly not using it or doing anything with it, and then I just keep buying more in the hopes that they'll make it better, and they don't. So, having come to that insight, I'm hoping, and it's still not something it's not a switch I can turn off and on overnight, but I'm hoping that it will help me get control of the spending. It's been, I think, better the past week or so since reading that. But anyway, I did do a little bit of stitching, and hopefully I will not be showing you purchases in the future because I don't need to be buying and because buying isn't solving my problems. And if they're right about how to deal with anhedonia, what I need to be doing is actually stitching or doing other things in which I used to take pleasure, in the hope that eventually I'll start taking pleasure again. So shopping wasn't doing it. I need to actually start using the things I got in the hopes that they would make me happy and see if any of that happens. And by the way, the other thing I read was that rather than doing things to try to make you happy, the thing that will make you happy is trying to pursue your ideal self and the person you want to be, and all this kind of real psychobabble. And so I'm going to try to do more of that. Something else I read about life in retirement said try to revive dreams that you had when you were younger. And the article on anhedonia said, if you can't remember if you can't think of anything that used to make you happy, try to think back to childhood. What did you do then? So, yeah, I'm trying to revive dreams, think of things that used to make me happy, think of things I always wanted to do. Like I said, a lot of it sounds like psychobabble to me, but I'll do anything at this point that might help. So, embroidery, I think my sudden obsession with that is one of those. I told you last month that I always kind of wanted to embroider, and so I think that's me trying to pursue my ideal self and do something I always wanted to do. So maybe it'll work. Stitching. Let me show you my stitching. So there was the white rabbit, and this is going to crinkle, but I wanted to show you a couple of things. One was the chart of what he was supposed to look like when finished. He's obviously from an old print related to Alice in Wonderland. He came from Orenco Originals. He was stitched with 2 threads over 14 count Aida, just as they recommended. They also recommended, he was a simplified chart with only 30 colors, even though the chart itself was prepped as though they were going to have the 48 that I thought I was getting. By which I mean, if you look kind of at the top, crinkle, 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 of the chart where the key is, they had symbols for 48 colors. They only gave you 30 of them. They also told you how many skeins of each to get, like 2 of ecru and 2 of winter white, 5 of regular white, and so on. A couple of pink ones. These are the ones I bought that I never even opened the skeins because you didn't need all those colors. I have a lot left over. Yes, I needed more than one skein of the white and the winter white, I think. Maybe not, because here's a winter white in my hand. Here's an ecru I didn't use. Here's 1, 2, 3 whites, and they told me to buy 5 of them. I only used 2. Yeah, so apparently I don't know why they were so far off on the colors. They said to get 2 of this blue, and there was no way you needed that much. But anyway, I just wanted you to know, if you do, part of the reason for showing this Orenco chart all along is I've never seen theirs completely stitched up, and if you happen to be interested in theirs and want to do one of theirs, be advised, maybe you don't want to get all your floss at once because their quantity recommendations may not be correct. So where's my rabbit? Another sign of not taking any interest in anything is he's been done since the beginning of June, maybe the 3rd of June, and I still have not washed or ironed him. Sorry. But here he is. He is finished, top to bottom. Last time I showed him to you, he was 3/4 done, I believe. So that's why I'm kind of focusing there on the bottom. So you can see the parts I didn't show last month. But he is only a small full coverage. He's only 8 by 10 and he's on 14 count, so it's not like folks who go all in for their heaven and earth designs and things like that. But he was still different to stitch than some of my other pieces. I've done dimensions kits that were very close to full coverage, but again, they're very different. They're not pixelated. He looks very pixelated to me, I must say. Like this, and they don't have, 8 different color changes in 10 squares. 10 squares of fabric, that is. But anyway, I'm happy with how he turned out. I need to wash and iron him, but because he was a little different and because I've seen other flosstubers talk about how they approach different projects, I thought I'd mention that. Some of my projects, I've done in hoops, some on scroll stands. Scroll frames. He was on a scroll frame. I've showed you before how I have a stitching box for some projects and all the floss is just tossed in there and I pull it out as I need it. I showed you how I've made bags and labeled some of the colors sometimes, and I pull those out of the box as I work. And it's just an open box. This is not, the kind you use to bobbinate or anything. But for this project, because of the nature of all the color changes and things, I actually did it, and I've used these bags before, but I had it on metal rings, and the organization scheme was really basic. These are the numbers from the lowest number, which was 300, all through 995, and they're in numerical order, and I quickly memorized the symbols and the numbers because they were repetitive enough to do that. And so when I needed a color, I knew which ring to grab and just go to the number. And the other ring is all the ones that are 3,000 and up. The actual lowest number was 3024, and it went up to 3866. So again, they're just on a ring. They're in numerical order. I just grab it and get what I need, so that it allows me to work even with, here I'll show you on tiny little scraps of thread. Maybe you can see that. That you couldn't work with if you were doing bobbins, basically. And then the white and ecru are on their own ring. So that's how it was organized. That's the way I did my stitching. He's all finished now. Yay for the rabbit. And the other thing I stitched on was my Floral Splendor from Artiste. Again, that's the brand that Hobby Lobby uses in its stores. I've seen other flosstubers doing this. It doesn't really say Floral Splendor on the outside of the kit, but when you look inside at the directions, I think it's where the name showed up, I believe. Maybe it's on the chart itself. Somewhere it calls itself Floral Splendor. Don't know where. Anyway, that's what it's going to look like when it's done. I'm wondering how they managed to frame that, because the actual margin on the fabric is about equal to what you're seeing in the opening of that frame. I have gone from doing this on a hoop to stitching it in hand because there's no borders to speak of, and I'll show you what I mean. It's very close to the bottom of the fabric. Very close. And I centered it when I started. The only thing I've added since I saw you, again, I've barely been stitching at all, is I continued the yellow across and up, that little yellow border. And all of what you see of this leaf is new. And the things stitched in this corner of the yellow are new. You can see I've got a thread dangling. It's not that I'm not enjoying the stitching, and this little odd design is new. There should be another one of those over here, and there's a flower in here, so there's motifs missing. But that's all I've added to it in the entire month of June. I'm not having any issues stitching on the black fabric, especially since doing my little frog from Panna. That's not an issue at all. The floss has been pretty well behaved for artiste floss. I just haven't felt like stitching. So I'd like to continue to work on it. I want to do it. I think it's very pretty. But that's all the cross stitching I have to show you this month. So let's see. Did I leave out anything I meant to talk about? What are my plans? If I stitch, and again, the article I read on anhedonia says, try doing things you used to enjoy, whether you're enjoying them or not. And just keep doing that until eventually you enjoy them again, I guess. I don't know. So if I stitch, which I guess I ought, my plan would be to try to continue on Floral Splendor. I really wanted to get it done in June and July and then spend the rest of the year on my Land of the Dinosaurs. Speaking of which, I'm going to pause you again for just a very brief moment in your time. As I was saying, speaking of which, speaking of Land of the Dinosaurs, one of the things, the money that didn't get spent on cross stitch recently got spent on way too many other things. As I said, I think I might have the right psychological handle on that now that will stop it. But among the things I bought over the past month were more sheet music, even though I told you before I had all the sheet music I could ever want in a lifetime. Part of it is because I've gone back to learning something I started years ago, which is the soprano recorder or descant recorder. And I had a very good book on it by the Trapp family singers, and I've sort of got some other simple recorder music that I could play. And but I did buy sheet music for my primary instrument as well, even though it wasn't needed. I've bought a few books, not a lot, but some of the recent money, and by no means most of the money I spent, but some of it went on things like this. This strange looking creature is a reconstruction of one of those known from the Burgess Shale of the famous Cambrian deposits. This is Opabinia. Not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but there were also things like Anomalocaris and some other prehistoric beasties like Cephalapsis, and basically there was a set of 10 of these things. And then I got 9 beautiful, again a set. These were primarily but not entirely mammals. And then there was a set of 10, I didn't mute you, did I? No. Sea critters. Yeah, I waste my money on ridiculous things, but the thing is, the reason I dragged them out was when I looked at the mammoths, when I opened them, the mammals, opened them and set them out on the table and had a look at them, I actually felt happy for a moment, and that happens so rarely. And I just felt pure pleasure looking at them sitting there. I wanted to be a vertebrate paleontologist specializing in mammals. I may have mentioned that in some videos long ago. It's not what I pursued, but somehow looking at these just spurred things. So the books that I've gotten are more paleontology, and I have plenty to read here, but it's sort of that pursue your ideal self. It is too late to become a paleontologist, but it is not too late to learn a lot more about it and to read all those books that I have and to enjoy these reconstructions and things. And yeah, I'll take small pleasures wherever I can get them, since I seem to have so few. And I did not mean for this video to be entirely about that, but as I said, I'm only filming because it was advised that it would make you feel better. And I feel a little cheerful, I guess. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in to such non-cross-stitch content. And I will try to come back next month if there is anything to show, even if it's just a little. And I'll try not to waste all your time with too many things that aren't really what you tuned to Flosstubes for. But I appreciate you if you sat through all of this and actually listened to it. And I hope all of you are having a good month. It's incredibly hot where I am. Record-setting heat as it is in much of the American West, and not normal by any means. But as long as I'm in the house where it's cool, I can try to do things like stitching, can't I? So thank you very much. Have a good month until I see you again. Happy stitching, and I hope everybody is safe and well. Bye-bye.